Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. Halftime is over with. We are on to the third quarter. Third quarter tips off right now. Appreciate you making us a part of your starts on this Monday morning, depending on where you're at, listening to us from. However you're listening to us, we appreciate it. Hopefully you had a fantastic Easter weekend and ready to hit up a brand new work week. Oh, man, we spent the first hour talking all Brewers. Brewers picking up another series win against the Royals. They've got Boston tonight. Brandon Woodruff's on the mound, first pitch, 5:45. You can catch it on the radio dials of 105.1 FM at 790 AM. Pre-game coverage will begin 35 minutes prior. So we'll get back to more Brewers talk. Second hour, we talked all Bucks and Giannis and drama and such. More stuff starting to come out. Fantastic work done by Lori Nickel from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. About Giannis and such, and kind of throughout the question, go through all this stuff. What would you as a fan, right? What would you as a fan like to see happen? And I think a lot of us are on the same page because quite a few of you have chimed in and kind of said the same thing. Selfishly, we want Giannis to stay. We want Giannis to finish his career as a Milwaukee Buck. But do we feel like it's going to happen? Do we feel like it's the best move and such? And that's kind of where everybody's like, it might be time to go on and sort of thing. And I think this is a good point. Going back to all those quotes from Giannis, and you could relook at them at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And he talked a lot about, obviously, values privacy, wants privacy for his family. Right? And that's why he said he loves Milwaukee because of that. And I think, Great Man Mike, you make a really good point here. Of course, I would love Giannis to end his career with the Bucks. What I do take away from all the quotes is that if he goes to a big market, his career will be over sooner than later. And Jordan... Was it Jordan on our video stream also said too, or was it somebody else? Because we got a lot going on there. I know Paul said Wisco peeps will be way more respectful than New Yorkers and such, but the other part, somebody else mentioned it, and I kind of lost it here, but we hear all the time from, national media and such that Giannis to New York, Giannis to the Lakers, Giannis to this place, and that place. And over the years, too, we have heard Giannis talk about how he, likes the privacy and such, likes to go around without having a security team, surrounding him, doesn't want his family to be bugged or bothered by media and such, and very critical of the media pointing out where his kids go to school in Greece and all that stuff. And I think, Great Man Mike, you make an interesting point. Let's say he goes to New York. Let's say he goes to the Lakers or Los Angeles. If family is truly, and I don't doubt it, is his number one thing, and he values privacy and that such, and if not having his family around for those first 2 months of the season affected him so much from a mindset. And he talked about how in 2020, being in the bubble in Orlando, not having his family around, where he thought about quitting. And he went to the Bucs saying, I need my family here. If that is such a huge, huge, huge thing for him, how is that going to all play out in a big market? You can't go to New York. You can't go to Los Angeles and say, give me my privacy. Yeah, no. That ain't going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not. You're going to go play in Madison Square Garden? You're going to go play somewhere on the West Coast? media is going to be 500 times worse. We talked about that with Rodgers, right? Going from a Green Bay, Wisconsin media landscape to New York media landscape. We had the front and back pages of everything every day. And how was that going to play out? It's an interesting thing because, we talk about Midwest nice, and I fully believe in that. I think, a lot of, Wisconsin fans, we look at a lot of our athletes, whether they're Brewers or Bucks or Packers players, and we put them on this pedestal. Especially like, Green Bay, or if we got a great player, we put them on this pedestal. And they're probably more recognizable. Like if Giannis walked down the street, you probably know who he is. Green Bay, everybody knows Jordan Love. But if Jordan Love's walking down the street in New York, maybe not as many people know who he is or can recognize him right away. Giannis might be a little bit different because, come on, he's like 6'11" and such, and everybody who's that tall is already going to draw some interest. But, maybe a little bit more out there. But you might be able to hide in the crowd a little bit more with a bigger media market and such. And you stand out a little bit more in a Wisconsin sense. But I think in a Wisconsin sense, you get a little bit more respect. You get a little bit more breathing room, if you will. I feel like us in Wisconsin, we see somebody out to dinner, whether it's a coach or whether it's the pro athlete or such. It's like, hey, maybe if you make eye contact, you give them a little bit of a nod, a little bit of a tip of the cap, or a little bit of a wave. Maybe you take out your phone and you kind of sneak in a little picture and such. But yeah, you don't really have a media corps maybe waiting outside the restaurant and snapping some pictures. So if that is a very important thing for Giannis, I think, he wants to win. He wants to win championships. But if he's got to choose between, let's just put this, let's say, all right, this is what it's going to boil down to. Does he want a better chance to win championships? Or does he want what's best for his family and his privacy and having his family around? What's more important to him at this stage in his career? Because right now, the Bucks may be in a better position to accommodate what he wants from a personal life standpoint and to his family standpoint compared to bigger markets. Now, I'm sure bigger markets will say, hey, bring your whole family. We're good. We'll accommodate them. But the extra attention, the bigger spotlights and such, and it's clearly evident he doesn't want that. He tried to, hide his family in a different country. So if Giannis has to decide between the two of like, what's my better chance to win a championship or what's best for my family and privacy, which one outweighs it? He might have to make that decision. And let's face it, that is a very, 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 very tough one. A very difficult one. All right. Who you got in tonight's national championship? It is split right now between UConn and Michigan. So keep your picks coming. You can text them out over at 715-830-1912 or hit us up on the Section 105 chat room. We'll take a quick break. And then what did Ed Policy have to say about his latest comments about naming rights? But also, I want to throw a little fun kind of conversation to this. He acknowledged that pretty soon the alternate uniforms are going to be announced, and he gave another clue. And I'm more confused on what potentially it could be. We'll tell you what he had to say. Plus, we'll get to our Packers positional countdown. Or I should say positional Packers draft prospect countdown series. We're going to take a look at actually a couple of corners today. So guys that could be available in rounds 2 or 3 for the Pack. We'll take a quick break. We'll switch gears and talk a little football. Coming up after these quick words. Spring is here, and it's the perfect time for a fresh start and a new ride. Whether you are planning some road trips or tackling some weekend projects, or you're just ready for something new, now is the time to upgrade. At Toyson Ford, you will find a great selection of trucks, SUVs, and cars built to fit your lifestyle and your budget. Plus, their team is here to make your car buying experience easy and stress-free. This spring, drive something that you love. That's Toyson Ford. Your next adventure starts here. Switching gears here for just a little bit, because we've got plenty more Brewers talk and still want to get your input on the whole Giannis situation as we start to wrap up this regular season this week for the Bucks. But Ed Policy in his latest Policies Perspective, where he answers some questions from fans and such. So, as it's titled, let's address this stadium thing, naming rights, right? That has been a big topic of conversation and speculation and talk and such. So, let's go to what the question was. So again, he takes 5 questions from fans and such. So this was from Dan from Minneapolis. Dear Mr. Policy, having been a Packers fan since the 60s, I realize and appreciate the stewardship exercised over the time to maintain franchise viability in the eyes of the NFL in the eyes of the other NFL owners by continuously contributing to the NFL bottom line. Fans don't realize that ultimately NFL owners can pull the Packers charter if the franchise doesn't satisfactorily contribute to the league's financial performance. Can't be moved, but can be eliminated. If the naming rights to various parts of the complex can be sold on long-term contracts and those monies devoted to the corporate reserve fund and other growing operational expenses, then go for it. Hopefully, we're talking $25 to $40 million annually to the Packers. The best of luck as the league moves into its next phase of financial evolution. Thank you for getting ahead of the competitive challenges to the Packers that privately owned NFL teams' equity sales create for the only publicly owned franchise. Ed, or President Policy, responds by saying, thank you for the question. While much was made about my quote, it seemed like a few media outlets and social media posts may have taken it out of context. So, for clarity purposes, here's my full quote from the article. Quote, we're soon to be the only stadium without naming rights. That's not a threshold we're looking to cross anytime soon. But we might be a little bit more aggressive with some of the other entitlement inventory we just haven't taken advantage of in the past, including things like the training facility entitlements and Titletown campus. I went on to say, without current willingness to cross that threshold, we must look at other entitlement opportunities or revenues to keep up with the other NFL teams. I spoke to this at the annual meeting to shed additional light on the healthy paranoia we must have when looking at the economic landscape around the league. While player salaries are capped, every other expense involved in running a football team has increased over the last decade. I'm confident we have the strategic foresight, leadership, and vision to remain competitive for decades to come. But while we are in a strong financial position right now, we can never take that for granted and must always have an eye towards the future and adapt with the ever-changing landscape of the league. It won't be easy, but we are prepared for the challenge. And we kind of just recently saw that. The field at Titletown is now sponsored. And this is something we have talked about. The Don Hutson Center might have a sponsor. Other avenues might be sponsored. It is not the number one thing that they're looking to do for stadium rights sponsors, naming rights. But they're going to be looking at other stuff. We already saw one. Clark Hinkle Field might be sponsored. Ray Nitschke Field might be sponsored. They're going to look at that stuff first. But if it gets to a point where they have no other choice, that might be an option that they look at. But it sounds like, again, it is not in the near future. So everybody who is upset about that possibility, just take a deep breath. Because it ain't going to happen anytime soon. Just take a deep breath, okay? The other thing, and this is kind of where I want to have some fun, creative minds out there. He was asked about alternate jerseys. This is from Eric from Oshkosh. Said, hello, Mr. Policy. Can we please that's 9 pleases. Do an actual alternate uniform at some point. For decades, the answer has been that we just don't want to break with the historic tradition of the Packers. We get that. But it's not like anyone is asking to permanently change uniforms. I like a number of the throwbacks, but still don't understand why the Packers are so reluctant to try something new and creative during the season. Is the organization afraid that too many people might actually prefer the new look and pose a threat to the traditional one? President Policy responds, thanks, Eric. Yes, as I mentioned back in November, there is a true alternate uniform in the works. Last year, the NFL unveiled a new rivalries uniform for teams in the AFC East and the NFC West. The NFC North is on the docket this year. Stay tuned, and you will learn more in the coming months. But I will say this, truly alternate uniform will celebrate our owners and emphasize our uniqueness. It's another clue. We need to get our Robert Stack, trench coats, unsolved mysteries, get up out here and try to figure this thing out. What the heck are these things going to look like? Because, in his first comments back in November, it kind of painted the picture of like, okay, what's unique to Green Bay sort of thing. And I thought, okay, they own the cheesehead thing now. Could the helmets be cheesehead? And then it still could. But now you throw in saying that the alternate uniform will celebrate owners and emphasize uniqueness. So it's something about shareholders. It's something about owners. We know this. It's something about that. What the heck is this thing going to look like? It's not going to be like selfies or pictures of owners, because for as many as there are, they look like a little pixie dust, a little pixel on that helmet or that uniform, and that would just look ugly. I know they could get creative and it look like, I've seen those images or those pictures or those works of art where it's like all these different pictures and they form into one big thing. No, I don't want that. So what the heck is this thing going to look like? Is the helmet just going to have a big old picture of a stock certificate, a piece of paper on there? Or what is this thing going to look like? We got some clues here. The alternate uniform will celebrate our owners and emphasize our uniqueness. Emphasize our uniqueness. That's the key phrase there. What the heck? And that's about fans owning it. So what the heck is this thing going to look like? Anybody got any bright ideas? Anybody got any creative thoughts on what this thing could be using the clues at hand? What do you think this thing is going to look like? Because now my curiosity, usually I don't really give a whole rip about it. Now my curiosity is like, okay, here, what the heck is this thing about? Because I'm confused. I am really confused on this whole thing. Give me some fun, creative thoughts on this, all right? Okay, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to get to our Packers draft prospect, potential prospect series. We're going to take a look at a couple corners that could be there for a day 2 pick for the Packers. Second round, third round options. Quick break, and we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. With spring rolling into Eau Claire, it's time to get back outside and enjoy the season. And whether you're heading to the range or getting ready for a hunting season or just gearing up for some time in the great outdoors, Tilda Gun is your local shop for selection, service, and expertise. They offer a wide range of firearms and accessories along with a knowledgeable staff who can help you find exactly what fits your needs. No pressure, just straight answers and real guidance. It's about making sure that you're comfortable, confident, and ready for your next outing. Spring is the season to get prepared, to get organized, to get outside. Until the Gun is here to help you do just that. Stop on in and see why they've got or what they've got in stock and why so many in the Chippewa Valley trust them year after year. Till the Gun, your hometown source for gear, service, and experience. All right, let's talk some potential Packers draft prospects on day 2, since we don't have a day 1 pick as of right now, and probably won't. But we are just a couple weeks away from the draft. It'll be 2 weeks from Thursday. The first round kicks off. So we're looking at day 2, so it'll be 2 weeks from this Friday and such. But, obviously we've got a bigger pool of players to be looking at for potential day 2 picks here between rounds 2 and 3, whereas normally we'd be looking at potential first-round prospects. We got a wider sample size here. So part of where I'm the selection process, in case anybody's wondering, like, why are you selecting these players and such? Part of it is, I think, position of need that we all kind of agree on, which defensive line, defensive tackle, corner, and such, offensive line. And then the other part is, I peruse around some of the mock drafts and see where, the analysts, the pro analysts, the national media people are kind of mocking to Green Bay. And one of the players that was mocked to Green Bay comes from, that I'm going to bring up here, comes from Chad Reuter, who we've had on the program many times, actually, former UW-Eau Claire alum, draft analyst for NFL.com. And one player that he mocked to Green Bay is their second-round pick, number 52 overall. It's a defensive tackle from Oklahoma, Grayson Holton. So looking at his draft profile from NFL.com, he's listed at 6'3", about 293 pounds. His combine score, according to Next Gen Stats, he was the 6th ranked defensive tackle under production score, under athleticism score, 9th, total score, 12th. Lance Zierlein's write-up, an undersized 3 technique with disruptive attributes. He's best suited for a rotational role in a movement-based front. He plays with synced hands and feet and good lateral agility. His initial quickness makes him quite slippery, but a centered block can clear him from the run lane due to his lack of mass and anchor. He's an energetic gap-to-gap rusher who can threaten guards on their edges or play his role as an effective twister. Finding the right scheme fit will be critical for Holton in the NFL. So, interesting choice. Now, if I'm looking at this as a pick, because I'm looking at some of his stats. Played all 13 games, 7 starts this past year with Oklahoma, 3.5 sacks, 7 TFLs. 2024, 5 sacks, 6 tackles for losses. He is more of the pass rushing type of defensive tackle, pass rushing defensive lineman. And so if we look at kind of that 3-4 base defense, he's probably that guy that, the defensive ends in a 3-4, if you will. The defensive tackles, the outside defensive tackles in a 3-4. Not the Micah Parsons role, but the down, trying to explain it for people who might not, what do you mean? No? Not the nose tackle, not the guy in the middle, okay? So, because right now that seems to be Devontae Wyatt and Hargrave. And you got Carl Brooks on there, who is a better pass rushing defensive lineman too. And if we look at Tom Silverstein's piece from last week that we touched on, maybe the Packers are a little bit interested in locking him up long term. So I don't know if I'd be all aboard on all on board with this pick for a round 2 first pick overall, because it doesn't scream immediate need for me, or like immediate contribution for me. Now, if this was a massive nose tackle that's going to, be an early down guy and his job is to stop the run and that's what he excels in, boom, okay, I'm all in. But a rotational defensive tackle, maybe a little undersized, and it's very important for him to be in that right scheme. I don't know if that's a pick I'd like to see Green Bay do at that point. But we know Green Bay is going to have a little bit of a versatile defense. It's not just going to be straight up 3-4. There's going to be elements of both and that sort of thing. And depth. We talk about depth. That's just, I don't know if I'd be all about that one. Now, if he's got room to get bigger, add a little more mass, play a little inside, possibly. It's just, I think there's probably better options at this point in time. And maybe one of those options comes from the cornerback room. Let's go to Malik Muhammad, who is a corner from Texas, a Longhorn. All right, Longhorns fans may be a little familiar with him. 6 foot, $182, 182 pounds. His right up from Lance Zierlein. He's got good coverage talent to offset his slender frame. He can man up from press or off. It is a plus pattern matcher, staying in phase and shadowing break points. He displays outstanding vision and adheres to his zone cover principles, allowing him to play ideal efficiency at all three levels. He can get out-muscled by big, strong wideouts inside the route and at the catch point, but he doesn't give in and usually holds his own. He does a nice job of chopping pass catchers down in space, but a lack of play strength shows up in occasional broken tackles. He's a day 2 talent and starter level ability. All right. So there's a lot to like there, right? I like the height. I like 6 foot from a corner standpoint. I think that's ideal height from a corner defensive back. Weight, yeah. Let's get him in the weight room. Let's add some more muscle onto that frame. Add some more muscle, add a little bit more weight. Hopefully that leads to a little bit more of a physicality in the tackling department. I mean, the last thing I think a lot of us want to see is a corner that's going to use his shoulder to tackle a lot. Usually doesn't always pan out in the long term. Let's see a guy who wraps up. So let's add a little more muscle to him. But I like the height. And I like the fact that, okay, he might be out physical, but he ain't going to necessarily back down from that. I like that he could play press or play in zone. Multiple multiple different schemes, the versatility that he provides there. I like that. Looking at some of his numbers, 2025, second team all SEC, 4 pass breakups, a couple interceptions, but 2024, 8 pass breakups, 16 games, 8 pass breakups. Heck yeah. Did have a pick, but 8 pass breakups. Yes, sir, sir, sir. It's not just about getting the picks. Yes, you want to see a quarter. If they get their hands on the ball, you want to see them come away with the catch. You want to see them come away with the interception and all that. But if they could get the pass breakup, and if they could get, that lockdown coverage, I'm all about that too. A lot to like on this one. A lot to like with Malik here. It's just the biggest thing is we got to get him in that weight room, it sounds like. Got to add some more muscle to him. Got to add some more, maybe that would lead to more physicality with him. But if this were to pick a day 2, I've seen him now. So I looked him up on a couple of the mock drafts. And again, this is where after round 1, mock drafts get a little bit, I don't want to say sketchy, but a little bit muddy. Because it's almost like, it part of it too, I think, is why I like day 2. I like day 2 because I think for Green Bay over the years we've seen guys come in right away and be impact players on day 2, rounds 2 and 3 picks. But also it's a little bit of a Wild West sort of thing. We could have all these mocks, and a lot of the experts and the analysts out there, they get it right, most parts. But the beginning of day 2, or beginning of round 2, it's like the guys that everybody thought were going to be round 1 picks, it's like a race up there to try to grab some of those guys. And then it's kind of like, we thought he was going to be a round 3. He ends up being a round 2. We thought that guy was going to be a round 2 pick. He ends up getting drafted to round 4. So it's a little bit all over the place. It's a little bit of a Wild West type of feel. And I like that. Unpredictability. So, I mean, if this is an option, let's say, because I saw him as a round 3 pick, I like that. I like what he potentially brings to the table here. So that's just a couple more names to add to some potential picks for Green Bay when it comes to their round 2 or 3 or day 2 picks. So, all right, let's take a quick break as we start to wrap up the 3rd hour. We'll be right back after these few words. Looking for the perfect place to kick back this spring and summer? Well, then you need to head on over to the VFW Post 305, Eau Claire's go-to spot to relax, grab a beverage, and enjoy the moment. Inside, it's a great place to meet up with friends, but when that weather warms up consistently, it's all about that back patio, right? With one of the best river views in town, there's no better place to soak up the sunshine, unwind after work, or spend a weekend afternoon. Cold drinks, great people, and a view that you can't beat. VFW Post 305, your spot to hang out this season. All right, speaking of the VFW Post 305, let's do a little bit of a best and worst from the weekend. Submit your picks. What was the best? What was the worst from the weekend? You can send those on over via that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Or you can join in on the Section 105 YouTube chat. So, my best of the weekend, I got to go Brewers again, man. I got to go Christian Yelich. I got to go Garrett Mitchell. I got to go with the left-handed hitters right now with this Brewers lineup because they've been going up against some early left-handed pitching. And without the likes of a Jackson Chourio or an Andrew Vaughn in that lineup, going up against a lot of those guys, a lot of those left-handed pitching, I've been impressed. I've been really impressed with them so far. So the best of the weekend, it's the Brewers, and especially the offense, plus 28 in run differential through the first 9 games of the season for them. I mean, let's just take it for what it is right now. I know it's only 9 games in, but it's been awesome to kind of watch. So my best, I got to go with the Brewers. My worst, I got a couple. First of all, I'm going to go with the Geno and Don Staley interaction, altercation, whatever we want to call it, after the game in the Final Four. Not a great look for Geno. I know it was. He said it was about the pregame handshake, that he was waiting there for the longest time, and yes, videos does show that he was kind of standing around and waiting for the longest time for the pregame handshake and such. But there was, and I know he came out with a statement and such, and I get it, the emotions after a game like that kind of got out dominated a little bit, so you're upset. A lot of us have been there before. It's just in the heat of the moment, still no excuse. It was a bad look and such, so that's the worst, especially when you got video to prove otherwise and such. But that's part of it. The whole Giannis thing that we talked about in the second hour, a lot of those quotes, that just didn't give me a really great feel of where everything's at between Giannis and the Bucks and their relationship over there too. And then finally, more of a personal thing, Arizona getting dominated by Michigan, because that did not clinch the bracket challenge for me. I need UConn to win. I didn't pick UConn to win, but I need UConn to win, because if Michigan wins, I'm pretty sure I lose. I go from first to second. So I need UConn to win. As much as I'm not a UConn fan, I need them to win so I get a little bit of bragging rights for at least 364 days of the year. So I just can't say 3. Can I still say 360? Yeah, I can still say 360. 364, 365, 360, whatever. Okay? Till next year. So, Arizona not winning did not clinch it for me. So, And I don't feel great about UConn's chances because Michigan is just kind of humming right now. They're rolling right now. So I don't feel that great about their chances to get the job done. So that is my VFW Post 305 best and worst from the weekend. So, all right. Coming up next hour, we're going to catch up with our guy, Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire, WEAU 13 News. He's going to be joining us. We'll do some local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. So we'll hit that up. Also, we'll do our little Glory Day segment brought to you by Summer Jam in Eau Claire. It's also Masters Week. All right, anybody getting geared up a little bit for Masters Week? For the Masters starting up on Thursday. We'll get back to some more Brewers talk as the Brewers get set to take on the Boston Red Sox. Brandon Woodruff on the mound for his second start today. So, and I know a lot of people probably getting amped up and excited for tomorrow's start between the Miz Kid and Garrett Crochet. So, but hey, taking it one day at a time, one pocket turtle at a time. Don't know what I'm talking about? Look up Brewers and pocket turtle. So, Bobby Jr. Oh, I love it. So we'll talk some more Brewers and such, and continue to give me your thoughts on the whole Giannis thing. And put yourself in Giannis's shoes, because I think this is ultimately what he might have to decide. When we go through all those quotes in that Milwaukee Journal Sentinel piece by Lori Nickel, quotes from Giannis himself. He values privacy. He values family. Those are like his top things. But he's also said it's championships. It's all about championships. So at this stage in his career, try to put yourself, don't do what you would do. Try to put yourself in the mind of the Greek freak Giannis. Do you think he will prioritize family, privacy? That's why he says he loves Milwaukee, because it gives him that. Or will he prioritize winning another championship, which means it might be in a bigger market, which means he won't have the privacy and he'll have more media attention on his family. He doesn't care about it on him. He doesn't want it on his kids. He doesn't want it on his wife. That's what he doesn't want. And he gets upset when there is that. What's going to win? What's going to be, which way does that seesaw go? And if you read the comments or you were listening in the second hour of the program, when we went through a lot of them, what's your gut telling you about this whole situation between Giannis and the Bucks? It's kind of a messy finish. It is a messy finish to the regular season here. A season that was just a mess to begin with is getting a little bit uglier here. We got 4 games left to go in this thing. They're back at it tomorrow, taking on the Nets. Pistons on Wednesday. Nets again on Friday. And then they wrap up the regular season on Sunday against the 76ers. Bucks just have one more home game. That's it. They're on the road against Brooklyn tomorrow, on the road against Detroit on Wednesday, home against Brooklyn. Is that going to be Will Giannis? He still wants to play, and he wants to play with his brother Alex. Will he get that shot to do it in the last 4 games, and will that be in the final home game of the regular season, of the season for the Bucks? We'll see. But let me know your thoughts, all right? Hit me up. Text it 715-830-1912. Or, again, you can join it on the Section 105 chat if you'd like. So, I only got about a minute and a half here till shot clock cuts me off. So, if you want, you can still send me some of your best and worst from the weekend, brought to you by VFW Post 305. All right, just from the weekend. What was the best and what was the worst? And continue to send me your predictions for tonight. You're going to go with Michigan to capture the national championship? Or do you think UConn gets another one? Where do you think this is going to go? Who do you think? Who are you going to roll with? It might be a little bit different on who you want to win. So if you have to, give me who you want to win and give me who you think will win. I want UConn to win, not just because I just purely selfish standpoint, but I think I might be leaning towards a little bit Michigan tonight just because they've been playing so dang well. And they just, I don't know, man. They look like kind of an unstoppable force at this point. So we'll see how it all plays out. But from all the texts and messages we got, it seems to be right now at 50-50 in terms of how they feel like where this thing's going to go. So, all right. News updates. We'll be back in just a couple.